is under threat. The article written by Srimati Sonia Gandhi, Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha, is chairperson of the Congress Parliamentary Party. And I read here. The Prime Minister's renewed call for a Har Ghar Tiranga campaign in the week leading up to our Independence Day, August 9 to 15, offers us an opportunity to collectively introspect on our national flag and its significance to the country. Is moral duplicity in paying defense to the national flag while pleading alliances to an organization that has remained indifferent to it is one matter. The rampant adoption of machine manufactured polyester flag with raw material often imported from China and elsewhere is another. An attack on the khadi industry. The Flag Code of India has historically required the national flag to be made of hand spun and hand woven woolen, cotton, or silk khadi bunting. Khadi, that coarse but versatile and sturdy fabric which the Mahatma himself spun and wove in his leadership of the national movement, is imbued with a special meaning in our historical and cultural memory. Khadi is at once a symbol of our stories, past, and an icon of Indian modernity and economic vitality. When India was under foreign rule, Khadi was an instrument to locate sovereignty and self sufficiency in the individual. It, in sovereign Khadi, Khadi had been a commitment to the ongoing journey of Indian national integration and revitalization. It was in a difference to this eternal symbolism that the tricolor once bore the Mahatma's charkha as its centerpiece, and that the modern day India flag used to insist on khadi as its sole fabric. In 2022, on the auspicious occasion of 75th anniversary of our independence, the government amended the code with its order date 2021 to include machine-made polyester bunting and simultaneously exempted polyester flags from the goods and services tax. Thereby, it put them on the same tax footing as khadi flag at a time when it would have been appropriate to bind ourselves afresh to the service of our country's national symbols. The government chose to set them aside and purse mass market machine made polyester fabric. The Karnataka Khadi Gramodyog Sanyukta Sangha KKGSS in Karnataka Hubali district, the country's sole national flag manufacturing unit accredited by the Bureau of Indian Standard, that is BIS, had to resort to an indefinite strike to call attention to the state-sponsored murder of India's khadi industry. The decision came at the time when India, from its glory days as a global hub of polyester manufacturing, became a net importer of the polyester yarn in 2003 and 4. We thus have the real misfortune of importing polyester yarn, primarily from China, and then weaving this important yarn to produce cloth of our national flag. The shameful inversion of our national pride occurred at the time of the grave encroachment by the Chinese and armed forces in our border, and at the peak of the Prime Minister's Atma Nirbhar Bharat spectacle. The hollowness and inadequacies of the government vision has direct and calamitous consequences of Mahatma's foremost legatees are khadi spinners and weavers. The GST burden. The case of our national flag is not an exception. Rather, it is vividly poignant illustrations of this government general disinterest in cultivating India's stories, handloom, and handicraft traditions, khadi and otherwise. Since 2014, the government has led a consistent effort to support big corporate interest in oil oil globalization and structurally dismantle our national micro, small and medium enterprises sector home to our handloom industries. Demonetization, a punitive GST, and unplanned COVID-19 lockdown saw the thousands of our handloom workers quit their professions. Our handloom traditions, a material testament to our shared history as a society and polity, has been unraveled by the high-handedness of this uncaring government. GST continues to be a burden on our handloom workers, with tax having been introduced on the final product as well as raw material, yarn, dyes, and chemicals. Our workers' consistent demands to exempt handlooms from GST have fallen on the unsympathetic ears, even as surging cost, particularly of the electricity, cotton fiber, squeezes them out. The recently launched Vishwakarma Yojana, itself deficient on multiple accounts, fully excluded handloom spinners and weavers from its ambit. Meanwhile, in a perversion of the Mahatma's vision, the government has taken no efforts to empower our khadi spinners and weavers to form their own cooperative outside of existing khadi institution to market and sell their products. Khadi procurement has fallen. The government procurement of khadi has fallen as department chose to ignore overrule mandate that require them to do so. More worryingly, the government has failed to build a global audience for Indian handlooms at a time when consumers across the world are begging to price sustainable sourcing the and fair trade. The fabric on which Gandhiji's Satyagraha was founded should have been globally treasured. Instead, even in his very own nation, Bapu Khadi is being denied its identity. The government has failed to regulate the market, and khadi spun from semi-mechanized charkha is being sold discriminatorily and under the same tag as traditional handspun khadi. This is to detriment of our khadi spinners whose wage do not exceed more than 200 to 250 per day, despite their back-breaking manual labor. The path forward is long, and it requires a reimagination of the place that India's handloom traditions hold in our society and economy. But the first step is to unequivocally clear. It must begin with a restoration of the khadi as the only fabric with the distinction of bearing our national flag. The fabric which Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru so evocatively described as the livery of India's freedom must find its rightful place as an embodiment of our national pride. We owe it to our history and to our workers. This is the article written by Srimati Sonia Gandhi in the Hindu editorial, and the date is August 20, 2024. The title is The Library of India's Freedom is Under Threat.